had worked an entire year for that to happen, but it was also the beginning of the end and when shit hit the fan.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our 2013 Top Elite Partner of the Year, Tasha.
Before we get started, for the lawyers, everything that I am sharing in this video is based on my own personal experiences, thoughts, and feelings. These are my interpretations of events as I have lived through them. My intention is to share my story honestly and respectfully without naming names or placing blame. This is simply my journey, and I hope it helps others who may relate in some way. The beginning is important because I think it's important to know why I got into this, the way that I built my business, and the way that it was different from everyone else. It took me getting to the top to realize that I was doing something totally different than everyone else. So after I had Claire, I knew I had 100 pounds to lose. I knew I wanted to go about it a different way. I didn't start the 2B mindset right away. I just started drinking water because I thought to myself, you know what? I've been yo-yoing for so many years. Would I rather do the strict, rigid diet, lose all the weight in 5 months or 10 months because I had 100 pounds to lose, but then struggle and yo-yo and gain 10 and lose 10 and gain 20, then lose 20. And I didn't want to do that anymore. And I actually asked myself, would I rather do that or would I rather have it take me twice as long to lose the same amount of weight, but do it in a way that I felt like was sustainable? And I had done the other thing so long that I'm like, you know what? What's the harm in trying the other thing? Because it's not like I'm getting lasting results anyway. And so I actually just started with drinking water. That was the first thing that I did when I started my weight loss journey in 2011. Before I even found BODi, I was doing Jillian Michaels videos and I was just drinking a lot. That was what actually the workout I started with, but I started drinking a gallon a day. I knew that worked. So I wanted to create these healthy habits. So I just started drinking water. When I got into the habit of that, then I started slowly dipping my toes into the 2B mindset. So I just started tracking everything that I was doing. There was like a whole plating method that goes along with it, which was really great to like help me learn how to start listening to my body again. But I just did it slowly. I slowly eased myself into it without any expectations. In fact, I told myself, I'm not even going to try to lose weight. I gave myself permission to not diet and not lose weight, even though I had a lot to lose because it was just so much pressure.
It sounds like this was a good opening for sustainable habits you were seeking.
Yes. And so then I was kind of doing things halfway. You know, I started following the plating method, but after, 10 or so months, I had only lost 20 pounds, but I knew I was eating in a way that I should be losing more weight. And I also was experiencing other health things that never had happened. Like I was waking up every morning, my joints hurt, my fingers were so swollen, like my rings didn't fit. And not only that, my toes were swollen. Like they were tingly. I was like, something is going on with me. And so I knew I was eating well enough to be able to lose the weight. I wasn't losing the weight. I had all these other things going on. So I actually went to see a doctor. When I started to realize that my body knew what I needed more than what the diets knew that I needed, I actually started paying attention. And that's how I knew, maybe something else is going on. I know I'm doing the things right, but it's not working. Let me go get some help. So I went to a doctor. Turned out my hormones were crazy, but it also turned out I had a lot of food sensitivities. And so I stopped eating gluten. I stopped with dairy. And at that point, that combined with following this new method, the plating method, it was very helpful in the beginning. I love it. It's a really good, easy way where you don't feel like you're cheating on a diet. So it really worked for me. And I started to lose weight really fast. And I was sharing everything. I was sharing everything on Instagram. I was using that as my accountability. I was sharing my weight every day. I was sharing the food that I was eating every day. I shared my workouts every day because that's how I held myself accountable. And I realized that me showing up was inspiring other people. And they could see through my journey that, okay, maybe this is doable. So that was really cool. And I saw my business start to grow with this new way that I was doing things. So I hadn't even hit my 100-pound weight loss goal yet. And I decided I wanted to venture into TikTok. I started a TikTok account. I didn't tell anyone on Instagram I was doing it because I didn't want the pressure. I had a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram at this point. And I was just curious, like, how fast could I grow my TikTok without telling anyone, just from the things that I know about creating content and the things that I was teaching my team? Because I did have a lot of people on my team seeing success on social media, but I also had a lot that weren't. And so I'm like, I want to make sure this works. And so I tried it for myself and it worked. I mean, I went from, and a lot of people think that I went viral and I grew so fast because of my weight loss transformation. I started TikTok when I weighed 200 pounds and I had a video go viral when I weighed 200 pounds. So it's like, it wasn't just my transformation. I mean, there's this whole side of social media where learning how the algorithm works, like there's a method to social media. A lot of people think it's luck. That's not the case. There's actually a method. So I went from 0 to 1 million followers on TikTok in 4 months. And then meanwhile, I was losing weight. I was getting really amazing results. By the end of December 2021, I was down, I think around 80 pounds. So I had pretty good results. I had been sharing them. I had gone viral and my business exploded. And it was really great. But at the same time, I could not handle it. And I started hitting record sales, like numbers that BODi had never seen from the customers that I was signing up to do the same program that I was doing. And I'm talking like there's a monthly there was, not is anymore. It was in the past. There was a monthly benchmark. And if you were signing up 3 customers a month, it meant that you were earning enough commission to be able to pay your business fee. And then like for your monthly Shakeology, if you wanted to earn profit, you had to go above that. And so 3 new people every month was always the bare minimum. And there was a lot of people that struggled to sign up 3 people a month. You know, the top coaches were probably signing up anywhere from 5 to 25, maybe 50. I was signing up over 500 people a month. Like, no one had ever heard of that ever. Like no one believed it. And it wasn't just one time. It was month after month after month. And so yes, I was earning income from my customers. I didn't have this huge team. I had a big enough team to be able to hit elite, but my team never went more than 2 levels deep, meaning it never went more than the coaches I signed up and then the coaches they signed up. It was never deeper than that. So yes, it looked like I was on the top. I did not have a very big team. So that was how 2021 ended. And I knew with those types of numbers, I could become the top coach. And so I set that as a goal in 2022 to be the top coach. And how it kind of works is you work all year for this. And then at the end of the year, whoever is the top 10, they get celebrated the following year. So 2022 started. I hit my 100-pound weight loss goal in May. That was around the same time that I found out I was pregnant with Alan. But it's funny because every month they show a leaderboard of like who's the top 10, the top 25, the top 50. January, I was number 1. I think some people knew who I was like on my team, but a lot of people had no idea who I was. I think, I don't know. I can't speak for everyone. I think people probably thought like, oh, it's just January. Maybe she had like a couple things happen that put her in the number 1 spot. And I'm over here like, no, I knew what was happening on the back end of my business that I don't think people knew. So the way that it works, and I mentioned this previously, but the way that it works, how they rank elite coaches is there's different categories that you can earn points in. One of them is your personal sales, and they change it every couple of years. One of them was like new coaches that you were signing up, the sales that your coaches had just like 1 level underneath you. And I would have never been able to be top coach if I did not have somewhat of a team because you had to have like balanced points. I was earning points mostly in my own personal sales. And to give you an idea, in January, I had over 500 points in that category. And in December, the person that was the number 10 coach, I don't even know if they had that many points cumulatively. I had a lead by a lot. And so by like March, April, May time, people started to recognize who I was and that like, oh, she's still number 1 month after month after month. Like, what is she doing? And it got to the point where, you know, I started to be able to talk to other top coaches, whereas before I was just kind of blinders on, doing my own thing. Nobody really knew who I was, but now people knew who I was. And it got to the point where I would hear from other coaches in the network that the common corporate thing that people were saying is Tasha is unbeatable because I was doing so much that no one had ever seen that it was impossible for anyone to surpass me. And to give you an idea, at the end of the year, I had over 3,000 points. I think 2,500 of them were in my own personal category. And I think the number 2 person had half, if not less than half than I had total. And I have a hard time sharing this because I don't ever want anyone to think that I'm bragging about the business that I had, but this was like the reality. A lot of other people at the top were earning points because of what their team was doing. Not everyone. Everyone's business looked a little bit different. There were other people that, yes, they were really great in their sales and probably not as high in the other areas. So it was very different for everyone. But I would say the majority of the people had like deep downlines and giant teams, and their teams were producing a lot. So then I hit my 100-pound weight loss goal. I got pregnant with Alan. I also got asked to speak on the main stage at Summit, which was a really cool experience. It was at the Alamo Dome. It was really cool. And it was a huge honor to be asked to do that. And I got to share about my journey and how I shared my journey on social media and everything that I was doing to attract people losing weight and having a healthier life. And I felt so good about what I was doing. And then coming home from Summit was when I started to hear things that I'm like, people are really saying that about me. So there was like this leadership chat that even until the last day, I never got to be a part of it because I was never considered a leader because I didn't have a big team, even though I had a group of thousands of women that I was showing up for every day and doing live videos for and leading the group. I was never a leader. And I was never got to be a part of the leader chat, but I had friends that were in it and people that I was like actually friends with. And I had heard that like, oh yeah, someone said today, like, I don't know what was the top. What were they talking about? I think they were like talking about social media or something. I don't know. This is hearsay. This is something I heard from someone else that was in this chat, that it's not helpful that our top coach right now has a viral transformation because that's not duplicatable for people. Not everyone has 100 pounds to lose. Not everyone has a big social media following. Nobody else can do that. Yet the number one person, that's the example they're setting. Like it's a negative thing.
Can I be honest too? Like watching this from the outside, because I didn't know you through any of this.
Yeah.
Like watching you from the outside and seeing what you've been through is almost like, okay, the whole like support other women movement. Yeah. It's like, could we be any more like high school mean girl?
That's why I wanted to get out of it. It was so toxic. And I didn't realize that until I was at the top, but I like wasn't included.
Right. And then like, that's the one thing about network marketing that I think is starting to come out in every business is that should have been squashed so fast.
Oh gosh.
You should have been celebrating.
I learned later on that they didn't want people like me. They didn't actually want people that could influence people to lose weight.
No sense to me as a business friend. And it's like, why aren't we celebrating all the diversity? And why isn't that being taught from the ground up, from the headquarters up? It was like, we will celebrate because you were celebrating, quote unquote, from the stage. Yeah. But when it came to the part where you were spending every day in it, it doesn't seem like anyone was willing to acknowledge who you are because you were doing it.
Very interesting you say that because there were a couple people that did. After I became top coach, I got some messages from people that had left the company warning me about things. Yeah, I know, right? I felt like I was on top of the world because I was like, wow, I have this incredible transformation. I actually did the work. I lost 100 pounds. I shared the journey. I have inspired so many other women to take control of their health and get started. Like I felt so good about what I was doing. But then I started hearing like, well, that's not that good because she's not duplicatable. How is anyone going to be able to think that they can grow a business if that's what they have to do? And I'm like, hello, I strategically built my business this way because I didn't want to cold invite people. I wanted to grow on social media. I knew this was how I could do it. I knew this was how I could grow my network. Like this was not an accidental thing. I had been planning this for years and years and years. It took years of showing up every day to get to where I was. And I felt so proud of that. But now I wasn't duplicatable.
Culturally, when you get to the back end of network marketing, no matter what business you're in, even if you're a really good network marketing company that you enjoy, that you're like, I like this culturally, unless the culture is being policed by the headquarters, which wasn't what's happening. It was like Lord of the Flies, it sounds like, in the background.
But I think what happened though, and I think I kind of started to realize that corporate didn't care about the culture because there was a certain group of people that had big teams that were building in the way that corporate thought people should be building. Like they were put on a pedestal.
Right. And that's the part that was hard to hear. And this is when I started to be like, you got to tell this story, was like hearing how culturally that's where things go wrong in network marketing. It doesn't matter what business structure you're in, it's where it goes wrong. And I think when culture is not policed well, or it's not guided is a better way to put it. If it's not guided well, it's like naturally it turns into the mob mentality. Yeah. And you got mobbed.
Well, and it's like, I literally didn't understand. I couldn't comprehend. I mean, now I get it. Now that I've like been at the top and have talked to a lot of people in corporate and a lot of the coaches that had been around for a long time. But at the time, for so many years, I was focusing on my weight loss journey. And that's what I was sharing. And that was where I had the most success in my business. And so I was so confused that when I was hearing these things, I'm like, why wouldn't you want your top coach to be someone that's proof that this works? Like I was walking, talking proof that like you can lose weight doing this.
It's like also, what can't two things be true? It's like, you are not like anyone else. And yeah, that's okay.
Like, it's not okay for them.
I don't know. It's not okay for them because they wanted numbers and mass numbers. And when you start talking about the mass populace, that's like big numbers. And it's like when you're exceptional, that's small numbers. And they don't like to hear that.
Well, because it's not duplicatable. And I didn't learn the whole thing about that until I became the top coach. So thinking back to it now, that was the point when I started to have red flags about the business. And that was the summer of 2022. So yeah, it was only a couple years ago. I mean, it feels like 10 years ago. That was only a couple of years ago. And that was like just the beginning of it. Like so much more happened when I actually became top coach. So after Summit, there's another event that happens every year called Leadership. Leadership is an event for certain ranks, or it's pretty much like the top 200 people in the network. So I've been going to Leadership for a couple of years. We do business trainings there. You get to relax. And we were in this one conference and everyone was so excited. This was when they made the announcement. I literally remember sitting there, like everyone cheering around me and me being like, what? They made the announcement that they were going to go from the name Beachbody to BODi, which that wasn't like the thing that I thought was weird. They announced a rebrand, but they almost announced it in a way that we're changing the name and we're changing like the colors, the fonts, like that part of branding. But it actually was like, no, we are rebranding everything. And it almost felt like to me, what our mission was before isn't our mission now. And so this is why it felt kind of awkward to me is
That's a big change.
Yeah.
Changes the sales direction.
Well, but they didn't just outright say it. And why I felt a certain way about it was because this was after I had heard like people were upset that I had lost 100 pounds because not everyone has 100 pounds to lose. And it was apparently sending the message that if you want to be successful, you have to have a lot of weight to lose, which is not true. Why I feel like I was successful was because I was so transparent in sharing every single step of my journey and showing up every day, talking about everything that I was doing, talking about a goal that I had, a vision that I had for myself. And I was making that happen. And I shared that story while it was happening. I don't necessarily think it was just because I lost 100 pounds. And I mean, the proof to that, my business was really successful even when I was only down the first 20 pounds. It wasn't just when I hit that 100-pound goal. And so they announced that they weren't going to be sharing as many transformation photos anymore. They were changing the name from Beachbody to BODi. They were creating a new category. The new category was health esteem. And everyone was so excited about this. I have a background in business and marketing and sales. And I was like, my business has been successful because people want weight loss. People don't want health esteem. Like, yeah, that's important. I think that people learn on their journey that you gain self-respect, you gain confidence on the journey. It just doesn't magically happen afterwards. But I personally don't think that's why people start their weight loss journey. And from my experience, from me living it, from the people that I have helped, it's because they see what's possible through a transformation. You can physically show that. Sometimes you can't show the other transformation that happens, but I think that's what people are drawn to. So in my mind, I'm like, that's not going to sell. I even said, you know what? I'm going to keep doing things the way I'm doing it. Beachbody, go do your thing, or BODi, go do your thing. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because it's working. It was very interesting to me that all of these changes happened after I heard that people were upset that I had lost weight and I was the top coach and that we need to focus in a different direction. The Beachbody I signed up for was like insanity P90X days. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to do something hard, to completely the opposite of eat more dessert, health esteem. And like, yeah, that's important, but that was not really what I felt aligned with.
Totally different mission.
Yes.
It's not that it's bad or wrong. There's no like good or bad to it. There's no category to it that way. It's just that it was such a massive departure from the previous mission that you're like, wait.
And part of their mission was helping end the trend of obesity. And in my mind, I'm like, I used to be obese. I'm not anymore. I'm showing people it's possible. And it's like, is that not the mission anymore?
That's a big change.
Yes, it was a very big change. Everyone was happy about it. And I was like, what? So leadership happened. All of these changes were announced. I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep my blinders on, keep doing the things the way I'm doing it. It's working. I'm helping a lot of people. I enjoyed it. And then at the end of the year, they had announced that on top of the name change from Beachbody to BODi, we were going to now be called partners and not coaches anymore. And when they announced that, the first thing I thought was like, BODi partners? Like, did anyone think this through? First of all, it seemed very rushed because it's like, if you're going to make this big change, why wouldn't you have announced it at leadership a couple of months ago? I didn't find out until later that that name change actually happened because a group of other top leaders had decided to get together on their own accord, ended up making some decisions because apparently, and I didn't know this, apparently volume was down across the whole network. So if you're not in network marketing, essentially what that means is if you have a big team and your volume is decreasing, you are losing a lot of income. For me, my income was going up. I didn't feel that at all. My income was going up though, because like I said in the beginning, most of my income was based off of my own sales. Because I wasn't earning a ton of income from teen volume, I didn't even know that was happening. Apparently it was happening, and a group of leaders got together to save the ship or something or other, I don't know, and ended up calling the CEO of the company, suggesting these changes. And then like a week later, the changes were made. So it was very out of the blue, very fast. Yeah. And very weird. That was 2022. That was the highlight year of my BODi career. The next year, January, I was announced as top coach of the year, which was so exciting. I had worked an entire year for that to happen, but it was also the beginning of the end. And when shit hit the fan,